Hello, it's Tai Chi Tuesday again, and it looks like it's the middle of the night, and it's actually not. It's just really rainy outside. Some would call it miserable. It's just my kind of weather, so. But anyway, and it's freezing in here, but never mind. So yeah, my lights probably show up quite well today. Should have bought the other one. Anywho, so today, last week we had the recap from the follow-alongs 1 and 2 and the little 10 form. So now we're just going to slow things down a little bit and start adding in some of the principles of Tai Chi, positioning, stances. So we'll begin with, as usual, a little bit of a warm-up, bring ourselves into the day, as it were. And so feet shoulder width apart. Make sure your weight is centrally through the feet, not too much in the toes. And I'm going to bend the knees, relax into the hips. But we are going to imagine that string from the ceiling, still from the back of the head, so as though holding the spine and letting it hang. And that keeps our spine nice and neutral and pulled up. So you're pushing through the floor from the dantian, the center, down, and you are suspending from the dantian, or center, up. You are relaxed at the top of the body, the shoulders are relaxed, the elbows hang as if held down by weight. You can't lift the elbows up because they'll be pulled back down by the weight again. And you're pushing through the feet. The legs are tense. Think yin, yang, white, black. They are tense, but not too tense. The same as the top is relaxed, but not floppy. So nice deep breaths into the belly. As you breathe in, the belly goes out. And as you breathe out, the belly goes in. As you breathe, you are breathing through the whole body. So it's an expansion of the whole body as you breathe in, and a contracting of the whole body as you breathe out. So you're rising and extending, breathing in, contracting and sinking as you breathe out. This is also really good for leg and knee strengthening. If you're a little bit weak in your knees, you have knee problems, anything like that, top of the legs are a bit weak, perhaps your balance isn't so good, this rising and falling will very subtly build up those muscles, top of the legs, around the knees, and allow the balance to be a little smoother. And when we start coming up onto the toes, that strengthens the ankles and the calves and the bottom half of the legs. And that also improves balance. Do you remember when I'm doing these, I'm in a very wonky room. So I have to compensate for that sometimes. But we're going to start just with the breath. And regulation of the breath. So as you breathe in, you're rising up and expanding the whole body. Breathing out, sinking down and contracting the whole body. Once you're concentrating more on the breath and you've managed to slow the mind down a bit, you can really start to slow the breathing down as well. Now we're going to hold the moon, expanding the chest, breathing in, and then breathing out, one hand each side of the ball. Breathing in, breathing out the other way round. And we'll do a little cloud hands. Breathing in to go to the right, and breathing out to go to the left. Remember that you're not moving the arms, apart from to swap at the ends. You're moving this all from the waist. As you turn the waist with the knees bent, it brings the shoulders where you want them. So the arms really are just remaining in front of the body all the time. If you feel that you've got strong legs, you can widen this to more of a horse riding stance. You'll see that in my follow along video, I've got this really nice and deep for the cloud hands. You must make sure your knees are following your toes and that you're allowing the hips to move. If you need to turn the toes in and out to stop the knees from hurting or bending inwards or anything like that, then just feel free to do that. Just swizzle around on your heel or the toe. If you have pain in your knee, come up a little bit. And there's a little figure of 8 movement that goes with the hips here and allows more movement to happen. And it's very subtle, but the body has to move together. You're not just moving the hips like this, you're moving from the waist, you're moving the whole body, because Tai Chi obviously moves the whole body at the same time as one unit. And then we'll bring the legs back in a little bit. And we're going to hold a ball. Bottom up, top down. Breathe in. Breathe out. Bring the hand up. Let's do a brush knee push. Now let's do reverse reading arms. Let's do a brush knee push again. And then we'll sink some chi. So breathing in. And out. And then just hold some breathing space for a moment. Taking nice deep breaths into the belly. then relaxing. So at the beginning and end of our sessions in class, I usually do one form or another. So I think we'll start with something nice and easy. We will do the follow along number 1. Awesome, good stuff. Right, so let's get into today's lesson. So we're probably just going to look at part of the horse's mane with stepping, because we're going to look at it in a little bit more detail, including the beginning of the 24 form. I want you to get into the habit early on of being able to move the body together, to be able to step, turn all at the same time, and make these movements happen at the same time, while also not getting in the habit of turning and pulling back so that you're in a 50-50 kind of position. It feels almost natural to do that in a way, but it's not how the movements and forms of Tai Chi work. We'll go over some stepping first. I think I added some in last week, but we're going to do it again. Usually cover stepping a fair amount in classes, almost weekly. So, because it's so difficult to get into muscle memory. Once it's in muscle memory, it's helpful to just keep practicing it anyway. Tend to find that the more you do it, the feet narrow, the stance narrows, instead of remaining shoulder width apart. So we're going to begin by standing with our feet shoulder width apart. And we've still got the string from the ceiling, so neutral spine suspending from the top, pushing down through the feet on the bottom. And without bringing the feet in through the center, which is what would happen if we were walking, we'd bring the foot to the center and step straight in front. If you do that in Tai Chi, you end up heel to heel in your stance, which is really not very stable. Try it yourself. So what we are after is to be able to step straight forward in a straight line with one foot, in a place where it's nice and comfortable. You'll bend both knees, but more the front one. Make sure you can still see your toes, and make sure that your toe and your knee are going the same direction. Your front foot should always be directed exactly where you're going. So if you're going towards 12 o'clock, then your front toe and your knee will both point exactly to 12 o'clock. If you are facing 12, your back foot will be facing, where would it be? About 1:30, 2 o'clock. So a 45-degree angle, so not at 3. If your foot is facing 3, you're putting pressure on the inside of this knee. And I know in classes I do say sort of 45 degrees and people get confused and turn it right out like this. This is 90 degrees. And if you're doing that, A, it doesn't bring your hips around. You can't put the 70% of weight on the front. And if you try, you're really going to twist this back knee. And I really want to avoid people twisting their knees. I've had operations on my knees, so I know how long it takes to recover from that. And the consequences, of course, of having damaged knees. So make sure that, so 45 degrees, about 1:30 to your 12 o'clock. Instantly you see my hips have come around, so my hips are also facing directly to my 12 o'clock, what is my current 12 o'clock. My shoulders are over my hips, they're in line, and my weight is slightly forward, so there's 70% on here, 30% on the back. This one is called full, this one is called empty. If I change the weight back, my front one is now empty, my back one is now full. Tai Chi works on the principle of always changing. So front full, then it's empty, then it's full, then it's empty. In addition, my 12 o'clock is now this way. We also need, I'll do it this way round. We also need that, and I've spoken about this before, this angle going from the back of the heel to the top of the head. And this is that weight forward. If you bring your weight back to the center, it's less stable. So in terms of Tai Chi, if you were trying to defend yourself by changing the direction of the other person's energy coming forward, which is what Tai Chi does, you're either rotating it out of the way or just pushing it a different direction, you will find that it's going to be harder in this setback position because you can't be as rooted to the floor. When you're forward in this position, you've got more weight coming forward, you can be more rooted into the floor, and it makes it easier to rotate somebody else's energy either past or away. So that's the things that I want to start picking up on in the next couple of weeks before doing, it's no point doing lots and lots and lots of different forms and not having that basis there. So I think this lesson would actually be really useful, even if you are in classes as well. This is the kind of thing that we're going to start going back over in January. And if you are in classes, it's worth watching these videos and having that just slightly more in-depth knowledge. Depending who's in the class, I can't always bring in because it's too much for some beginners to just come into a class and have to remember all of these things. So I don't always bring it in. Now, we are going to do part the horse's mane, just one. And the 12 o'clock is going to be this way, but we're going to begin facing 3. And so we're going to have I've got my left hand under the ball. So where the ball is concerned, remembering that the hand that's underneath is the direction you're going. So if you want to go this way, you need this hand under the ball. If you're going that way, you need that hand under the ball. For the top of the body, so we've just talked a lot about the legs. For the top of the body, we need this space in the armpits. And we need to hold the ball away from the body. So you have to imagine this is an actual 3D ball. So if you actually held a ball that was this big, this close to the body, it would just squidge out the front, because the energy in the ball there would be too much energy at the front for you to hold in this position, and the energy would make it go ping. I will prove this in the classes. I think most of you have probably met Dave by now, my helper. Maybe I'll bring him to the office one night and just do a little separate video on the ball and Dave and how kinetic energy works and why there's that space. Okay, so we're going to hold the ball, left hand underneath, and then imagine your square. So we did the thing with the square last week, or you could have a square, cut a square out of paper, stand in the top right hand corner of your square, and then you're going to step diagonally across to the bottom left hand corner of your square. So if you remember imagining your square, stepping across so that when you turn, this is where what we just did will come in. When you turn, your feet will end up shoulder width apart. And I'll do it your direction in a minute. So you put the heel down first, and you'll notice that my body is still facing my 3 o'clock. Put the toes down, so it's almost like Tai Chi walking, heel, toe. There's not really any weight on there. I'm going to move the weight across while turning from the center, from this part here. At the same time, this bottom hand will start going up, the top hand will go down. My heel lifts, then I push it back so that my foot is facing my 1:30, my front foot is facing my 12, and I've kept the weight forward. And it is a lot to think about all at once. So now I'm going to face what would be my 6 o'clock, and I'm going to turn towards you at 3 o'clock. I'm going to use the same hand under the ball, so my left hand, notice I'm holding my ball in the center. I'm not holding the ball away from my body, I'm holding the top and the bottom. The ball is potentially on my belly, because if you're holding a ball this big, that's how big it's going to be. So you've got to imagine this actual 3D shape that you're holding. And we're going to sink into the knees a little bit. I'm going to push the foot back, heel first. Notice when I do my step, I don't push out this way. Don't push out towards the 12 o'clock. My foot goes backwards. Heel, then toe. The heel and toe movement, or the toe down, kind of happens at the same time as moving the weight around, because it allows you to place that toe the direction that you want it. So if you actually wanted a slightly bigger turn, you could turn it all the way around. So I'm going to sink in the knees, go back to the beginning of this. Push the foot back on the heel. Beginning to move from the center. All of the body moves together. So my hips are bringing my shoulders around. My arms are moving. My toe then sets down to 12 o'clock. I lift the back foot and push it back. And then you'll see a slight sink into that position. If I show you from your direction, when you turn that heel, there's a sink down, because you're rooting that back foot into the floor, rooting down. So there is a little bit of difference between sinking down. Actually, probably better to show you from your position. There's a difference between turning the foot and sinking the body down, and turning the foot and then moving the weight back. That's the difference that I would like everyone to pick up from today's lesson. If you don't do anything else at all, it's really important to start getting this stepping, getting the body to work as one. So this week, through the week, just work on finding a space, maybe in the garden. Always, of course, be aware of your surroundings and trip hazards and cats, dogs, husbands randomly laying on the floor and things, and make sure that once you're safe, even just practice the stepping on its own for now. Do the step, push the foot back, and really take the time. Feel the way the body moves as one as you turn. Lift the back foot, push it back, sink into the step. Look into a mirror if you've got a full-size mirror. Really take your time to feel whether this position is right. There's no point doing one step, then another, then another. Check to make sure that your feet are shoulder width apart by pulling that back and looking down. Are your feet shoulder width apart? Mine are. If they're not, have another go. Do it again. It's no point practicing the wrong thing, because if you practice it wrong, then that is what's going to go into muscle memory. I know from being a musician, you just randomly play a piece of music and you play the same bit wrong every single time because you never practice that one bit that you keep getting wrong. By then it's in muscle memory and it takes forever to get it back out. So the beginning of 24 form is 3 part the horse's mane. Obviously it begins the same, so I'm now going to do it the same direction as you. So 12 o'clock is now going to be over here towards my green wall, and 3 o'clock is this way. So it begins exactly the same with the opening commencement as the 10 form. So you won't be able to see my feet for a moment, and my steps are going to be very small because of a lack of space towards the wall. So we have the opening first, then a commencement, lifting up, connect to the ceiling. Really take your time with this opening commencement. It's more than just a movement. And then holding the ball. Make everything nice and round, big and round. Keep everything away from the body, lots of space. Move the weight onto the right foot. Step across your square, so pushing that left foot back on the heel. Move all of the weight at the same time. Place the toes down towards 12. Lift the back heel, push it back, and then sink into that step. Try not to move that weight back. Make sure you can feel this. You should be able to feel it on this left leg. Then move the weight back to turn the toes. Turn the toes to 9 and come back in. And at the same time that this foot comes in, you're bringing that right hand under the ball. Make sure the knees remain bent. This is another part people tend to forget, and they come up straight up and they're trying to do the next step and it's more difficult. So keep those knees bent. Step across your square again. Don't allow this square to get smaller. Heel, move from the waist, turn. Toes have gone down, lift the heel. Push back. Sink into the step. Move the weight back. Again, this movement comes from the waist. So the whole body moves back. Turn the toes. The left foot and the left hand move at the same time, keeping the knees bent. Push the foot back across your square again. Heel first, move from the waist. Turn the back foot and sink. And that's the first part of your 24 that you're going to do through this week. And you'll be ready for white crane spreads wings next week, which is a little bit more difficult. Although if you've been doing the follow-alongs, you've probably already seen white crane spreads wings, because I think I've added it in a couple of times. Just to finish, let's do 10 form. Let's see if you can remember 10. You'll probably lose sight of my feet, but they will be there, honest. And so 12 o'clock is this way again. 3, 9. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week for Tai Chi Tuesday. Any comments, stick them down below, and I do try and answer everybody as long as I see them. If there's anything you'd like to see, any questions, let me know. Cool. Okay then. 10 form.